down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag. Hey, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Hey, hey, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Hey.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agent success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Revenova, the official TMS provider for the Freight Coach. You guys, I've been a broker for a long time, and the tools that are at your disposal with Revenova help you eliminate bouncing between systems, which improves your accuracy when you are managing multiple tasks throughout your workday. Plus, it's built into the Salesforce cloud, so your CRM is fully integrated with your TMS, eliminating yet another silo. In today's day and age, you are definitely concerned about the safety of your data. With Revenova, it's fully protected. They have cutting-edge security that keeps your information safe so you can focus on what matters most, and that's growing your business. Speaking of growing your business, with Rate and Lane IQ, you get real-time pricing and route recommendations, helping you optimize costs and improve operational efficiencies, which ultimately helps you make smarter decisions. If you are like me and have recurring shipments from non-EDI customers, they have intuitive cloning features that let you easily replicate previous shipments, saving both shipper and carrier rates with just a few taps. If you are ready to learn more, visit www.revenova.com to request a demo. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. I met her all of like 6 minutes ago at this point, and we're very aligned on a lot of our strategies and mentalities in building up our companies. And anytime I can talk with a founder, I love it. I love founder energy. Selfishly, as one myself, I think we operate at a different level. We're thinking at a different level. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's hard enough to get your business off the ground. But then when you build teams around it, you build technology around it and all of that stuff, it's a completely different mentality. But before we jump into today's interview, you know what we got to do. It is This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. Again, you guys, this is 100% viewer submitted. All right. And if you want your lane broken down on this show, I need you guys to email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. All we need is shipping city, delivery city, trailer type. We're doing this, you guys, as a way just to really help you guys actually read the freight market. And I tell you guys how I go about quoting new business. Now, I'm not ever going to tell you guys the rate to quote on there because I don't want to cost you any money on it. But I look at it, there's stability in every market that's out there, and it's our job to follow that trend line and find it. But today's lane is for a flatbed, and it is Salt Lake City, Utah to El Paso, Texas. Now, no matter what, first thing I always look at, miles. Why do I look at the miles on any of this stuff, you guys? I do that because transit time matters, especially if some of this stuff needs to pick up on a Thursday or a Friday for a Monday delivery. shorter the miles, the more expensive it's going to be. And I always want to let my customer know that because days of the week matter. And then with this one in particular, it's 860 miles on this. It's going to be exponentially cheaper for our customer to ship this on a Monday to a Wednesday, as opposed to, again, unless the driver's from El Paso, it's going to be a lot harder cover. And you're going to have to essentially buy a truck if this is going to ship out on a Thursday or a Friday out there. And again, money solves everything, you guys. But if I'm looking at this one, there's been some pretty obvious spikes that have happened out there. And a lot of it follows what? Fuel. All right. It follows fuel. It follows the ELP enforcement and everything that's been going on out there. And again, we got to pay attention to that stuff. But overall, though, if we're looking at the 1 year mark up here in particular, I mean, we're only about $250 higher than what it's been moving at. And this lane, so again, outbound Salt Lake for the most part has been, it's more of a softer market out there. Now, granted, this one is up about $3 a mile, close to, I round up here, to the truck on this one. But again, like, I don't ever think that anything outbound Utah for flatbeds is going to be a tough cover. Not saying that there aren't dips in capacity out there. But again, if you're going from that market down into El Paso, it's a solid market overall to get out of, because El Paso has a lot of border crossing freight that gets transloaded out there. So again, if you're looking at it from that perspective and you're mapping this out, you want to look at obviously the outbound market. Where's it going into? And then with this one in particular, it's I look at it as yes, the trend is up and it's seemingly going up out there, but I look at it as overall, in my experience, the Utah market is fairly soft overall outbound for flatbeds. But again, it's caught up to the fuel marker up there, but I see some stabilization that has came in here, because essentially for the last 30 days, and I mean, shoot, even into February, you guys, it's about that $200 variance. And I was talking about that earlier this week. That's the stability marker I really look for on, obviously when rates spike up, I look for that $200 variance, right? And I that's the number that I've kind of came up with. There's no scientific proof to it. This is just my quoting strategy and how I go about stuff, because if it's above or below that marker by about $200, I know that that's probably stabilized at that point. And, again, with that mileage being a tough mileage out there, with it being 860 miles, you could tie a lot of this into those price spikes probably happen if it's a Friday to a Monday transit time on there. But again, I look at this, we're in flatbed season right now. Things are really starting to cook out there in the market. Rest assured, this market is just, it's a softer outbound market. At least it has been throughout the entirety of my career. And I look at it as this is probably going to hover around this mark right now that we're seeing. Again, could be wrong. Things could change, but I would feel very safe in going and bidding at whatever it is that you're currently bidding at on this one. I would maybe buffer in a little bit for the days of the week of when it's going to ship out there. But I think, if you're in a spot market situation with your customers in this market right now, you're in a very, very strong position. But if you have a contracted rate, and again, if you were using a lot of this historical data that was out there when you were filling out that RFP, you probably bid according. So I think that, again, if you were maybe breaking even on this one, things are going to start to calm back down as the year progresses, and you're going to probably be able to find those pockets of profitability on this lane. But again, if you're in a spot market, you're in a very strong position out there. But I look at it as rest assured, the Utah market is historically soft. So I don't know if you're ever going to have trouble with capacity on this one, because there's a lot of freight that goes in there. Not a lot's coming out, at least in my career. That's kind of how it's always been. I would feel very safe at this one. This is one of those lanes, though, that's still kind of trending up a little bit compared to a lot of the other lanes I've been breaking down where they've actually started to decrease in price. So pay attention to that, though. Again, big thing is the day of the week out there, but rest assured, outbound Utah is soft, and I think you'll be all right. But that is This Week in Freight, powered by DAT for the flatbed lane analysis. As always, if you want your lane broken down on the show, email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. We just need shipping city, delivery city, and trailer type, and we will be able to take it out from there. So I would like to welcome Kasia Lane to the show. Kasia, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
I am doing good, and I'm fired up. It's, just the way that we were, communicating backstage there before we first started, to me, it's like, I can already tell we're connected and we're on the same page and on a lot of things here. So how'd you get your start in freight, Kasia? Like what brought you into this industry?
Well, it's always everybody has an interesting freight industry entry story. So I graduated college, and I was trying to find a job, and nobody wanted to hire me because I didn't have experience, but I couldn't get experience because nobody wanted to hire me. So I was stuck there living in my parents' basement. And my dad is, he's from Poland. He's, from the motherland. He's, it's a little different, being first generation. And he comes home with an MC authority for his trucking company. And he says, here, start the company. And I'm like, okay, sure. So that was the first company I built. I ran, so that was a learning experience. I ran a trucking company. We went up to about 10 trucks, flatbed, drive-in, a little bit of everything. But that was my first exposure into the industry, and that's how I got in.
So Iron Peak Solutions, I love the name of the company, by the way, because it's very unique in the own right there. So what brought you into this?
So when I was kind of at an impasse, I was talking with my brother. Me and my brothers are very close. And so we were sitting, I needed to find my next job. He was kind of not happy where he was at. And, both of us, we had, the vision of building something for our family to have, or our future families to have. Because that's the same thing our parents did. Our dad built the trucking company up, and my parents have, rentals. So it's just kind of building something on your own is just what we value. So we're like, well, it seems like perfect timing. You're looking for something different. I'm looking for something new. Let's give it a go. And it's been a roller coaster ever since.
So, okay. So you work with your brothers? Are you guys? Okay. Obviously trucking's a family business at this point. What is that been like, building a company up with immediate family? Because I think when a lot of people go into business, very few people are like solopreneurs where they go in on themselves. Most people partner up with somebody. How has that dynamic been, and how have you guys evolved in working together?
So if I would give anybody advice, I'm going to kind of start out with this, is that if you go into business with family, make sure that you have things in writing and expectations of kind of like, hey, you're going to do this, I'm going to do this, and this is kind of how things will look. It can change as things go. Because things were good for 90% of the time, but we definitely had our spats, but because I feel like the way we were raised, we stick through it through the thick and thin, like family above all else, and so it's just like, even if we had our spats, we knew that, we were building something that we want to have for our kids, and et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah. No, I think that's one of those things is having an operating agreement, having everything in writing, and especially when the sun's out, do it then. Don't wait until you have your first spat and then do it, because it is like, business is very emotional. And, when it comes down to it, and especially when you have kids and, your entire livelihood is wrapped up in it, right? Like, I emptied my 401k. I emptied everything to get this stuff off the ground, because I've started all my companies with 0 customers, 0 revenue. I had nothing. It was all.
That's how we work. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, it takes so much more brute force to get a business off the ground. And there's such a difference between breaking even to sustainability, to actual profitability, and then building out that behind that. So it's like, as a founder, and you said something in some of the notes you sent over, is this is something that I personally struggle with, is like leading everything. How do you get to that point where it is like that delegation aspect of it? And then now looking back, do you think you should have delegated sooner on certain things?
I think with the delegation, is important, but also knowing where it's getting delegated to, I think is more important as well. Making sure you have the right people in place to delegate to. You can delegate all day, but if you're delegating it to the wrong set of skills, I think you're going to end up disappointed.
Yeah. No, I think that's it's very true. Like, I think like knowing what you don't want to do and what you're not good at, I think is it's almost like I could almost summarize it like this: knowing what not to do is just as valuable in business about knowing what to do. And that's a lot of hard lessons, learned out there, at least from my perspective, because, I look at with a lot of right place, right time aspects in business. And, I know that because like I got into this industry, I've been brokering since, 2011. Mm-hmm. And I've seen, up markets, down markets, every certain, cycle that's out there. I've been a part of it, except for the COVID boom. I actually was out during that time, and I was
just out on a good time.
Well, I know that's it, right? And it's like, I look at it is there's a lot of companies that 10 or 20x during that COVID boom cycle as brokers, and now we're kind of coming back to a point in the market where brokers aren't as cool as they think they are, because capacity is getting tighter, rates are going up, it's getting harder to cover freight, and this is where I think the real players show up, because like we know how to actually manage a capacity market out there. So it's like, what were some of those key turning points in your guys' business that kind of help shape the framework of where things are today?
There's so many things when it comes to that. And you're talking about kind of like coming from COVID time, doing what, between then and now.
Yeah. So it's like managing those cycles, right? So it's like if you guys, and I didn't ask you this, but like when you guys got started with Iron Peak Solutions, was it pre-COVID or post-COVID?
It was literally like right before COVID started. We were looking, it was like just a few months before we got the messages from, the government saying, hey, everybody work from home. And we're like, oh, we were just going to get an office, but okay, we'll just keep working from home.
Yeah. So what was that? I guess like my main thing is what was that like managing, growing during that time? And then kind of, I don't want to say like, I don't know if you guys plateaued or anything, but like, it was a lot harder to develop new business 23, 24, 25. And then now that capacity is seemingly tightening up out there, how are you guys really working through this transitionary time?
We definitely had a lot of growing. So kind of like if we start from COVID, we had a lot of good growth. We hired a lot for the office. We had a pretty full office of employees.
Yeah.
But where we kind of went sideways, I think we took the growth for granted, because we did like right after kind of COVID, we were still kind of good on the bankroll and money was still coming in, but we were having a hard time bringing in new customers, and kind of reflecting on that now. That's kind of like where, the notes that I sent you, where that's kind of where my reflection is, the issues of accountability for my leadership, accountability for, my team members. Even just recruiting was difficult because I never recruited before. So it's just kind of like, I didn't know the things I wasn't good at and not good at when it came to recruiting, so did I hire the best people? Did I not hire the best people? So we took that for granted, the fact that we did have good money coming in. And then when the difficult times came, that's where I think the cracks kind of showed me more of what was missing. Mm-hmm. It showed that, maybe we do need to, pay attention more. Like maybe I should have a recruiter and do assessments versus just, kind of doing it on a gut feeling on hiring. Maybe we as founders aren't the best leaders. I love what I do. I love brokering. I love building something. But I might not be the best leader for my people. And I need to get someone in that seat that has that leader spark. So
yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, you're describing like so much of my own internal dialogue of building up my team and, building out my organization, because it's like, I look at, again, I have all the experience in the world, right? Like, my resume and industry experience and freight that I've moved on paper is up there with the best of the best in the industry, right? But it's like, when you're out there on your own and you're building it out, like, the market is like, they will dictate, because it doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter. I had all that experience. I know what to say on the phone. I know how to properly prospect somebody. If there's no buying window, there's no buying window. And it's really hard to get that traction out there. And then to what you were saying there, like, I've come to realize here, for me to build up my company in the direction and the trajectory that I want, it's probably going to be better that I bring in a leadership team to teach me to be a CEO or a C-suite, because I've never done that before. And I look at it as there's plenty of fractional options that are out there now, where it's like, you can bring somebody in, or you get somebody who's close to retirement that has no desire to like take over anything. They just want one more thing before they ride off onto the sunset of their career. And I think what you're bringing up there is so crucial, Kasia, because I think that's what stops a lot of progress with a lot of people, where it's like, for me personally, I love the hunt of new business, but once the business is onboarded, I get bored. I can't do repetitive same stuff. I want the next kill. So it's like, that's one thing that we've separated inside of my company, and we're working on it, because it's like, we are growing, we are moving more freight. So it is, you're getting pulled back in, but like, long term, I'm going to be just doing business development and not handling the operational side of freight. And I look at it as we're piecing together our organization, it's going to be smarter to bring in a CFO, to bring in a seasoned CEO, to come take us from certain revenue multipliers and then teach me how to do that, because it's a completely different mindset to get a business off the ground. And then once you have it off the ground and you have revenue coming in, and then you're like talking about what you're doing there about hiring people, you think, hey, the customers and the revenue is going to keep coming in. And, maybe I don't know, but maybe you didn't plan for a rainy day. And it's like that learning stuff. So it's like, I think the tools are kind of at our disposal now, Kasia, where we can build up around us and then bring people in to kind of train us up to take things to the next level, right? It's like, what when it comes down to technology, right? Like, we're both, like with Revenova, you had mentioned that in there. And it's like, we have so much more tools at our disposal now. What's the right tech stack implementation and working with that? So it's like, I think everything you're describing is like what almost every founder goes through. But unfortunately for a lot of us, the only way we're going to learn is if we do it wrong, and then we course correct it.
You got to get through it. You got to, you got to make the mistakes. You got to fall on your face, and, you just got to wipe it up, wipe your knees off, and got to keep going. So,
yeah. So what is it now, like, as in current market, like, how are you guys really attacking automation and technology to maybe scale your business out that possibly a couple of years ago you didn't even think was like plausible?
So my biggest thing, like with automation, let's start with automation. I really want to remove as much manual things for my employees to do. Like right now, one of the pet peeves I have in how we do things is that you say you book a truck, you go via email, hey, I have a truck available. So we had the first level, like we have a message template to send to the carrier, say, hey, fill out this booking information, driver name, phone number, equipment type, yada, yada, yada. But then I was like, cause I still book freight. And then, I was like, this is annoying that I have to then take this information from the email and then put it into Revenova, because then I have to do it there, fill it out here. And so it's just like, that's so much time wasted per person to have to do that. How can I use the tools to alleviate that, And so, I work a lot within Revenova with its workflows. They have a lot of great workflows that I've gone to town with. Yeah. A new one that I've started playing around with is Zapier, to where you can connect multiple different platforms to do things, so if this email comes in, this will trigger that. And then what my plan is to then have that booking information put into Revenova. So that's my plan there. So it's removing a lot of the manual steps that my operations team does, and also just my carrier sales team does, because I need them, on the phones, not having to do manual tasks to get something done. That's one of my biggest pet peeves.
No, that is, we're 100% alignment on that. I want to automate. I think 95% of my day should be automated. I think the only portion that should never be automated, and this is my personal preference, and every AI company I know out there loves to shit on me when I say this, is I never want a carrier or a driver to get a bot on the phone, just like I don't want a customer, shipper receiver, when they call us, I don't want them to get a bot. That is the only portion of my day that will never be automated. Right. And I'm willing to bank the financial future of my company that I'm going to be right long term, because I come from a family of truck drivers. My dad was an owner op. He drove for 40 years. I have family members that still drive. I know truckers. All right. I'm not one. I know them very well.
Right.
I think that the overwhelming majority of them on the road today are not going to be receptive to talking to an AI bot. But that's just my experience with it from that perspective. But I think that, for me, the tools at your disposal now, again, like within Revenova, for example, I like having the right TMS that we can build around, as opposed to having a certain shelf life with a tech provider, right? Where it's like, hey, these are going to be good till we get to like $2 million a year. Then we got to change, right? So it's like, how important is that as a leader? I could only imagine the amount of inbound solicitations you get from, hey, check out our technology here. How are you guys really approaching that in selecting technology? Are you looking like, hey, listen, these are our growth plans, this is our trajectory, do you guys have the actual capabilities to get this done? Or are you guys only good up until a certain point?
So looking back, kind of what we did. So it was funny, when we first started, obviously it wasn't like, hey, we started the business because we had no revenue. Like, hey, let's jump in with Revenova. Our first TMS was Airtable. So it's like a good looking Excel spreadsheet. It was quite beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
And we went from there. We went to Ascend TMS, which was they market themselves as like a free TMS for starters. Great. We love them for, as we're getting our feet wet. Like, they were really good to work with. And they're like, okay, we need the next level. Then we went to Broker Pro. Also great set of people, small business over there. I got to know a lot of team members over at their company. And what I really liked about them is that they really listened to my suggestions, So I'm like, guys, this would really be awesome if you had this. And they would, implement it. But, as I continued to grow the business, as you know, not every single customer is the same of what they need. One needs this kind of information and a rate confirmation. This one needs this kind of information. This one wants this. This one wants that. So then when I was kind of like, we're getting boxed in because this is your playground. You stay in that place, little sandbox. So then what I was doing, I did demos for like all the TMS systems out there. And what really caught my eye with Revenova was that it was customizable, to where I can move things around how I want to, have it, stationed up for different parties, like customer sales versus carrier sales. Like, I got to do whatever I wanted in there. So that was the main thing I was looking at is, how can I be able to adjust our platform with what our customers are needing?
Yeah. I think that's so crucial and so overlooked by a lot of tech companies out there. It's like, I think that there's a fallacy that all shippers are created equally and they all have the exact same requirements.
It drives me nuts.
I know it drives me up the wall. And that, I'm right there with you. Because like we have shippers of all shapes and sizes out there. All of them tender over at a different level. And that's what I love about like the customizable features that you're talking about. There's almost like a catch-all approach, right? Where it's like you can mold the operating system, which the TMS, in my opinion, is the most important piece of technology you can have for your business. and one that molds to every single customer is so crucial, as opposed to you get to the finish line with a prospect, because it's hard enough to develop business, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, you don't want to get to the finish line with somebody and then they're like, yeah, that doesn't integrate in with our software. We can't use you. You know, it's like, I already have enough gray hairs at a young age. I don't need that added stress on there.
Right.
So you brought up, how are you working? You know, you were bringing up earlier about a lot of the learning curve about bringing on people in hiring. How do you hold standards while building your team and not like lowering any of them to kind of like be a end all be all to everyone, right?
Yeah. So I think the struggles that we had, you know, and, you know, I still kind of have those struggles because I think that's who I am as a person is, you know, I bring someone in and I always see the potential in someone. Maybe they said something during the interview that I'm like, yeah, that resonates with how I came up, you know, or a similar like family story or, you know, same struggles or, you know, anything like that. And once, you know, I think kind of that's like the first hurdle, you know, is making sure that you're being objective, that I need to be objective when hiring versus having these thoughts. And the next thing is just kind of like when you have expectations, I made it just fine through being a baby broker of you need to make 100 dials and come in early, stay late, you know, because I think that really like that mindset, that's what you need to have to be able to make it through that threshold of this industry. If, you know, if you don't have that mindset when you're coming into this industry, like you're not going to make it. And so kind of having those, you know, when me and my brother first established, you know, kind of like, because my brother's name is Adam, by the way. Our other co-founder is Eric. He's a brother from another mother. Like we've known him since he was little, but yeah, they're my brothers. Is, you know, everything that they learned was through me. And so what I learned is like, yeah, you get on the phones 100 dials a day, whether it's carriers or, you know, to customers. And it doesn't mean you're talking to 100 people a day. That's just not feasible. Because there's like, you might get someone to answer, you know, one time, and then you have a bunch of no answers, you know. But, you know, I don't think I ever hit 100 dials. I think maybe hit like 75, but it's the striving to get to 100, you know, like 30 is not enough. It's just not enough. And then coming in early, getting ready for the day, you know, versus coming in right at 6 o'clock in the morning or being a little late. Then you're behind the ball because you're then just catching up while everybody else is doing the business. You're just catching up. And then staying late is the perfect time to prospect. Like, honestly, like all the businesses that I was able to get in with is because I stayed late, you know, like you catch the people after that 3-4 hour clock, you know, shift. And, you know, that's when you're able to talk to people and have a relaxed conversation and be able to get in with the clients. That's when like my vendors, you know, if they call me after 3 o'clock, I'll have a conversation with them. But you call me from 6 to 3, I'm busy. I got to go. Yeah. So, sure. Having those kind of expectations and not wavering from those, I think looking back, I would have just stuck with my guns with having that expectation. I always accepted whatever excuse someone may have. Oh, well, this, you know, this happened, or, oh, this happened, or, you know, that's just very difficult to reach, you know, but if I'm able to do it, if you're able to do it, you know, why can't the other person? So.
I think what you're describing here, Kasia, and I hear this from almost every founder I know from every industry. This isn't just a transportation thing out there. I don't know if there's as many people, like there's a lot of people who think they're sales reps, but I think when you strip it all down, they're account managers, and they've always been account managers. And I was just talking about it, you know, the other day on my show. They're two different jobs equal. They're very important jobs,
Yeah.
but that type of person who can go through, and again, everybody's metrics are different on their outreach, right? 40, 50, 67, whatever your number is, as long as you're hitting that every single day, that's what's most important. But I think what most people don't understand is they're not an actual business development rep. They're not a sales rep. They're an account manager. It's two different skill sets. And I think a lot of people come in and they're like, I can make 50 cold calls a day. That's nothing. That's nothing. Until you get 50 no answers in a day, and then you're not gaining any traction, and then you're not getting paid, and then you're not getting bonus, and all of that stuff starts to creep in. And that might happen in the span of a week, right? And I think if more people actually understood that, and I think if more organizations maybe cleared up the job descriptions a little bit, where it's like, hey, you know what? You're not a sales rep. We want you to come in and be an account manager. And that's why it's like, for me, I got some really good advice from a good, really, really, really good friend of mine. He's built his company up, bootstrapped it. And he essentially told me, he's like, Chris, he's like, don't think you're going to be able to stop selling until you're doing like 100 million a year in revenue. He's like,
good.
Because
that's good to know.
Yeah. He had told me, he's like, I've spent millions to try and bring sales reps in. And he's like, I have not found anybody. He's like, we got a lot of great account managers that are out there, but he's like, I've spent millions of dollars in salary, and it was just easier for me to continue to do what I'm doing and then try and build up people around me. But he's like, he's way past that number now. But he's like, if I would have gone back and done anything different, he's like, I would have led sales to 100 million, and I probably would have saved a lot of money. And he's like, we could have got to where we are today if we didn't do that. And I think like it's like, because I won't lower the bar. Like the standards are the standards. And like a lot of stuff to me, Kasia, is a very fireable offense. If you're not treating our customers and carriers and everybody at this, like you're not going to be a part of my team. I look at, there's a Warren Buffett quote out there. It's like, you can lose money for us, but he's like, if you ruin our reputation, I forget the exact verbiage of that, but it's like, because again, it takes, you get this as a founder, it takes years to get a positive reputation with your customers.
Yep.
And it can be ruined in one truckload. And I say this often, you can do 1,000 truckloads right for a customer. You're not entitled to the 1,001st. And the second you start thinking that you are, that's when somebody starts taking your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of good quotes, someone, I don't know if it's a common quote or it was this person, but it's like, you just need to work like someone's taking, you got to work as if someone's trying to take it away from you. Yeah. And then, because whenever I have good relationships with my clients, and they don't fail to tell me, my phone just keeps blowing off the hook with all these brokers trying to take my business. I'm like, oh yeah. All the time. All the time.
But that's the truth though. And that is, again, as you're out there developing business and you're a sales rep, most true sales reps understand that like somebody is coming for my spot every single day, and you have to perform. And that's why having high standards is a very good thing. And I'll be the first one to admit, Kasia, I'm not the easiest person to work with. But that comes from the fact of, I know how hard it is to build books. I've had to rebuild a book of business in this industry 3 times. This last one is for myself, and I'm not working for somebody. I know how much work it takes to get to that point. And it's like, I'm not going to skimp on our standards out there. And it's like, if you don't want to grow, and I think like this is another gut check that I'm having as a founder right now, is it's like, do I actually want to go as big as I say I do? Or am I just saying that because I think that's what I should be saying in the moment? Have you struggled with that as a founder? Like, do you know how big you want to build your company?
To be honest, I want to be able to build this to where, and then what's funny is that your person says, I don't expect to stop selling until you reach 100 million. It's like, I want to, be able to stop selling, be able to have a team. Yeah. But now with that new comment that you just had, to where it's like, don't expect to stop selling until you hit 100 million. Well, then, I don't know. I might have to readjust my expectations.
But I also look at it though, as founders, like we're always going to sell, right? It doesn't, whether we're selling to our team or we're selling to, an investor or a bank, and all, like we're always selling. And, for me, I think like if I strip it all away, I love the thrill of the unknown of entrepreneurship more than anything.
Yes.
Like I love betting on me. It's been the most, obviously it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's like not even comparable, but it's also the most rewarding because it's like, I look back at myself and I'd love to get your take on this. How much have you fundamentally changed as a person over these years of like running your own stuff?
Well, I've definitely become more structured, like with, like thinking about where I was at before and where I'm at now. Definitely more structured. Now I definitely have more higher standards, like with the expectations, looking back, it's like I let some things slide, that were unacceptable. But also, I would say more confident though too, because it's just like, going through everything that we've been through, nobody was there to hold our hand to say, here, Chris, let me help you.
Yeah.
No, I had to hold my own hand and be like, all right, where can I find these resources to help us get out of XYZ situation or anything like that. So it's just definitely more confidence that you're able to accomplish whatever, you put your mind to.
Yeah. You need a figure it out lever at a level. I didn't think I was going to need it as much as I have. But again, I also like looking back on stuff, Kasia, and we're like, shit, I had no idea what we were doing when we started, but we figured it out, right? Like we got it. And there's just I don't know, there's just such a sense of level of accomplishment with that I never experienced before. And, I look, it's a strength of mine, but it's also a weakness of mine because I will run through that brick wall mentality, but like, I also fail to realize that there might be a door like 10 feet to the right that I could easily walk through instead of.
That's the worst. That is the worst when you sit down, you do something for so long, you're like, yeah, I figured it out. And it was just right there.
Yeah, literally the entire time right in front of you. As we're wrapping up here today, what's one piece of advice you would give to somebody who maybe wants to go out and start their own company? What should they be actually expecting?
Be expecting?
Yeah, like what's one piece of advice on like, hey, this is what you should expect when you're starting, and it's okay.
I was like, there's so many. What's one? And it's okay not to, like, the thing that kind of comes to my mind is it's okay not to know. And it sounds kind of generic, but it's okay not to know how to do recruiting. It's okay not to know how to do marketing. It's okay not to know, that you're not, or accounting. But the advice that I would have then for someone is, just figure it the bleep out. I don't know if I could curse here, but, like I told one of my brothers before, I was like, figure it the fuck out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. You need the ability to do that. Like, I think what you said there is so true. It's okay to not know, but you need to possess the ability to just figure it out. Like, there is no perfect plan. The more you think about something, the worse it turns out. I personally think, like, you got to just take action. Yep. You'll figure it out. There's nothing you're going to encounter in this industry that hasn't been encountered and that somebody else hasn't had to figure it out at some point, right? So it's like, you have to do that entirely. But Kasia, I really appreciate your time. I thank you for jumping on here today.
This is great.
I'd love to have you back on at some time. I love talking to other founders who are out there actually building their dreams, because I feel like internet culture kind of ruins the whole entrepreneur label. And it's like, when you talk to people who are in it, who've got everything on the line, I just got so much respect for what you guys are building over there. But how does anybody reach out to you, though? How do they find out more about what you guys got going on?
For which side?
Everything. Hiring, get in contact with you. Maybe they got questions, put anything out there.
No, you could just email me at Catherine@ironpeaksolutions.com. So you could just email me anytime. I watch my emails. Like I said, I was up at 4:30 this morning, and I'm pretty sure it's the last thing I look at night, just to make sure I don't have any last minute, situations going on. So, I'm attached to that phone, unfortunately, but I got healthy boundaries, but I'll catch it.
There we go. I love it. Catherine, thank you so much. Sorry, Kasia, thank you so much for your time today. That is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys can't find them out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in direct contact. But that is going to be it. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back.